This episode is called The Panthers Lament because I'm going to talk about how I managed to go 5-11, the worst record I've ever had in clutch, and break down what is going on in clutch and within myself, because this is 90% my fault, that led to this horrific season and this horrific record. So first and foremost, I have to acknowledge what I did wrong. It's pretty interesting. If you track the seasons, we've had 8 total seasons so far, and I've made the playoffs 5 times. Pretty good. First one won the division and won my only championship. Next season in winter, made the playoffs, petered out with a very good team, but nonetheless, still made the playoffs. My wife actually won that season. So the 2 trophies you see behind me are the first 2 ever championships in clutch baseball. The following year, the 2018 High Heat, I once again won my division and made the playoffs, making me one of 2 managers to make every single playoffs thus far. And this is where it gets weird. 2018 Polar Power, I took some bad advice where I completely punted my rotation to boost up my lineup and went bullpen heavy. That time, I had my then worst record. First time I ever missed the playoffs. First time I ever had a losing record. I had Mike Trout, Freddie Freeman, and Justin Upton in 2018. Freeman hit barely 300, if that. Upton hit like 250. Trout's on base was like 400, which is okay, but not in 2018, where he has a 15 on base. But then I came back with a vengeance. 2019 High Heat with Oakland, and once again made the playoffs. 2019 Polar Power, I went pitching heavy with a very absurd rotation that starred Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax, Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, and the stadium exclusive promo CC Sabathia. And there I missed the playoffs by 1 game, going 500. Once again, still only 1 losing record, doing okay. 2020 High Heat, I got my number 1 stadium in the 2020 set, Minnesota. I was jazzed. They have great starting pitching, incredible bullpen options, and the lineup was fantastic. I'm talking Josh Donaldson, Sam Hilliard, Splash Anthony Rizzo, which I think is one of the best bargain options that you can get. I actually lost the title race on the final game of the season. If I had won, I would have won the division, but I didn't, so I ended up with a wild card. So fast forward to this season, the 2020 Polar Power, and you know what? I had my worst season yet. If you notice something very weird, is that whenever you get a summer league, I've made the playoffs every time. Whenever it's a winter league, I've made the playoff once out of 4 times. I know this is happening because when a set first comes out, I'm zoned in, looking at the cards, analyzing the cards, and putting together a team that fits my managerial style best. But come the second league, pardon my language, my dumbass wants to do something completely different than what I did the previous season, which might not be the best, but I want to make a departure from what I just did that might still be successful. Because of that, this is why I had my worst record yet in 2020 Polar Power. Now, for those of you that don't know my build, the concept was pretty simple. I picked Washington as a stadium because I wanted to go a little more rotation heavy. Even though it hadn't been done too successfully, I thought there was the possibility that it could work. So I looked at which park would support a rotation best and which pitchers went along with it. And I fell in love with Washington because I already love Steven Strasburg. And then once you get Max Scherzer in there and you get the stadium effect with Scherzer against righties with runners in scoring position, he's 8 command with 1-19 out, which is insane. Sorry, to clarify, he's 1-19 out on his chart. He gets an extra -1 when it's his advantage in running scoring position. So because of those 2, I knew I could throw Juan Soto in there if I wanted to. Sean Doolittle out of the bullpen is someone that I've always wanted to use, but never got the chance to. So I thought, let's throw him in. Since I'm doing Doolittle, let's do Kenley Jansen. He's a little cheaper, but very comparable in stats. They both have 7 base command, that 23 plus homer on the back end, but positive clutch. Seemed okay. Unfortunately, the flip side of going rotation and pitching heavy is that you lose a lot of salary in the lineup. I thought I could circumvent this because as more sets started to come out in 2020, I started to see a trend emerging. And that's a lot of low on base guys with incredible charts. So if you go down my lineup, you'll see a lot of guys with 10 on base, 9 on base, 1 to 4 out, homering at 19, doubling at 16. Charts, great. Most of the speed was about like 10, 11, 12. Not necessarily too slow where I can't move them around the base paths, but not exactly trailblazers either. So because of this emergence of these cheap guys with incredible charts, I figured, hey, my pitching staff is good enough. Like Scherzer, Strasburg, Marco Gonzalez, Anibal Sanchez, and Julio Urias. I figured I could get through at least 6 innings giving up a max of like 8 runners on. And every now and then, the like 4 advantages I get as a hitter, I can capitalize on with, doubles, homers, a single or 2, or a single, then a double that drives in a run because 11 speed coming around from first with 2 outs. Pretty good odd. 21 versus, most defenses on average are like 9 or 10. Like the odds are still in your favor. It was a pretty straightforward concept to win games 2-1, 2-0, 1-0. The problem was my pitching staff was horrendous this year. Now, when I say horrendous, this is what I mean by horrendous. Marco Gonzalez, 475 points, 7.13 ERA in 3 games. Anibal Sanchez, 375 points, 6.48 ERA in 3 games. Mind you, 2 of those were in Washington, and he's a Washington pitcher. Max Scherzer, 720 points, 6.26 ERA. Strasburg eventually got it together. Through the 3 games I have recorded on the website with stats, he had a 4.74 ERA, and in his last game, he went 8 innings with 1 run. That is the performance this team was built for. But most of all, in the 2 games I have recorded for Julio Urias, he had a 2.25 ERA, which speaks volumes of how good Julio Urias is. Okay, so let me bring it all together. I just threw out a lot of big ERA numbers for a starting rotation that I spent over 2,500 points on. That's a little less than half my salary. So you would think with a pitching staff like that, I wouldn't be giving up over 4 runs a game with all of them. So the question is, why? Why was this happening? First and foremost, I have to acknowledge the fact that I did catch a streak of bad luck throughout the season. It happens. I've caught plenty of streaks of good luck, and this season particularly, the math didn't work out in my favor. It happens. The second reason why this went down like this is there is a massive amount of Power Die cards available right now. A huge part of that is the sheer amount of strats in 2019. I believe there's something around 140 different strategy cards printed in 2019, which doesn't include counting commons and uncommons, which you can deck multiple of. So cards like Ribeye Steak, you can get 2 of. Cards like Squared It Up, you can get 2 of. And possibly the most game-breaking card printed in 2020 is See It Clearly, which is a common, so you can have 3 copies of it, and it gives you a free power die just as long as you're a lefty hitter facing a righty pitcher or vice versa. So because of this huge influx of power dies coming in 2019 and 2020, we see more pitchers' charts hits than we would have before, which is not conducive to a defensive build. Now I know what you're thinking. If other people get this power die strats, why can't you use these power die strats and get the same advantage? And there's 2 parts to that answer. The first answer is I did. I almost always decked 3 copies of See It Clearly, and I always decked 2 copies of Ribeye Steak. because no matter what your build is, you're always going to have opportunity for runners in scoring position. And because of that, boom, free power die. The second answer to this is actually a managerial choice. In a situation where you're building around pitching and defense, you kind of have two options to go with when it comes to building your strat deck. The first option is to offset your weaknesses. So in this case, the biggest weakness on my team was on base. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of strats that can boost your on base, but Locked In 2.0 was for sure a staple in my deck. The other option is that you lean into your strategy. So if I'm going high defense, I'm decking cards like Clean Cleats, Empty Real Estate, which is actually another reason why I chose Washington, because I was getting the -3 to the swing by using Empty Real Estate in Washington. And it's a common. Because I leaned into what I was trying to do, there wasn't a ton of opportunity for the offensive strats to offset it. Third reason, and final reason why my build just didn't work, is because Clutch is all about creating opportunities to score. And frankly, this is the biggest reason why pitching is struggling in 2020. I would go as far to say as there's twice as many ways to create scoring options than there are to prevent scoring options. Therefore, if you are leaning into your build and going offensive heavy, just trying to hit bombs, adding to your swing, getting lots of power dies, you can do that. And if you pay north of 3,000 for your lineup, chances are you're looking at scoring a lot of runs and creating a lot of chances with cards like Primetime, like Cold Blooded, anything that uses stats on the card to get you on base and move runners around. Pitching, however, you have minus strats. You have cards like Climbing the Wall, which is pretty good unless you're decking a center fielder that's either +5 or has a Gold Glove. It's not a great card. So as of right now, of the recording of this video, there is an imbalance in terms of support for power hitting teams and support for power pitching. The biggest thing, which I know the dev team is working very hard at addressing, is the fact that a power die swing is not equivalent to a power die pitch. A power die pitch is still reliant upon the swing for the result. The power die swing is not reliant on a power die pitch because it's already happened. No matter what chart it's on, a power die swing can get a hit regardless. So if you use a power die pitch and get to 24 and you have a fantastic advantage and there's nothing they can do to reverse it, if they have a power die swing and also get to 24, that's a home run on the majority of pitchers in Clutch. That's unequal. So something that's actually been tossed around as a possible fix for this is a D16. Now this would change the game exponentially and create a whole nother level of strategy. Ultimately having, let's call it a weakling role, is a better alternative than a power die pitch, because if you get the advantage, 1 to 16 on probably like 80% of pitchers is gonna be an out. So this is kind of a general recap of both my season and kind of the state of Clutch and team building and strategy card deck building of where we are right now. Obviously it can get a lot more intricate than this, and I'm just kind of skimming the surface on what seems to me the most glaring hole right now, especially when it came to my build this season. But to sum it all up, here's what we know. Power hitting is extremely supported right now. Power pitching, not so much. I'm an idiot that needs to stop taking experimental builds into season-long play when I have proven builds and scrimmages that do well. So thank you guys once again for watching. I don't know if this is necessarily the correct take, but this is just my analysis of the state of Clutch where it is right now. If you don't agree with me, or if you do agree with me, go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know how you think Clutch can best help bridge the gap between power pitching and power hitting, because ultimately we want to see every build have a road to success. And as of right now, I don't believe that's true. So please, let me know, how can Clutch best fix this? And until then, this is the OB Fun Club.